I want to tell you guys about my debut novel, but I'm going to do it in an educational way by sharing a series Bible. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to try to keep all the information to the first 1 to 5 chapters of the novel. We'll see how that goes. Some sections might be vague. Some might have more detail. We'll see. So my name's Isabella, and my pen name is going to be Bella Rive. I chose a pen name because I wanted to have a name that was completely separate from my birth certificate and my legal name. Currently, I am a 25-year-old living at home working part-time retail, which is fun. But I am hoping to make this whole YouTube thing work, this whole writing thing work, and hopefully that won't stay the case for forever. I live in Los Angeles, California, and even if I was working a full-time job, I don't think I would move out because life's expensive here. Buying a home is basically not an option. Even if I was working full-time and I was able to save for an entire year, buying a home is not an option. I would love to buy a home. I would love to have my own place, but that's a discussion for another day. Now, the point of this video is to be able to link from other future videos to share my debut novel so that anybody who wants to know more can, while learning something new and hopefully getting something positive out of this. We'll see. What is a series Bible? This is something I got from Heartbreathing Sarah Cannon. I will link her video down in the description so you can go check it out. The idea is to have one place to track all of your information and all of your world building, characters, everything for your novels, so you don't have to go sifting. Why is there a stupid fucking fly? What the fuck? Go away. The point of this is so that you can have everything in one location, so you don't have to go searching through 12 different documents to figure out what you put in your novel and what you didn't. So I will be going through the 9 different sections that she has in this document and explaining my debut novel while I go through them. I'm going to start with the races and then I'll move on to the actual characters. So I have 2 races in my novel. I have 2 fantasy races. They are bird-inspired beings, and they are inspired from actual birds, 2 different ones. And they are called the Kwai and the Hootar. Let me know down in the description if you have any guesses on what birds these are based off of. I would love to hear you guys. I hope it's obvious, but I have no idea if it is. I will have the actual answers in the description. So, despite having wings, they can't actually fly until they get through their magical puberty thing, which is part of the story. I love that so much. When it comes to character design, I kind of struggled with this for a while because I knew I didn't want them to be humans with wings, but I didn't want them to be just solid birds that can talk and walk like humans. I wanted something in the middle, but a little bit closer to the human aspect. So I don't have character art yet. I'm planning on getting some. We will see how long that takes. But the general idea is Galra from Voltron Legendary Defenders on Netflix. Just, bird versions. It's a whole thing. I am not good at coming up with images in my head, so I kind of need an artist to do that for me. But I do have a general idea of what I want them to look like. I know I want them to have hair, but I want it to be from like the base of the neck. From the forehead hairline to probably about here will be like feathers, and then it will taper out into the hair and like an ombre effect. Their faces will be a bit more angular. Their noses will be a bit more pointed to reference the beaks. And yeah, the one thing that I had trouble figuring out what I wanted was their skin. Birds have feathers that protect their inner skin, but I didn't want them to be full bird people. So I had to figure it out. Now, I wanted also them to have the ability of getting tattoos because Darren, Alina's love interest, has tattoos. And I wanted to, make that an option. Oh, her best friend also has tattoos. I forgot about that. I needed to figure it out. Now, this probably doesn't make sense for bird beings, but I'm doing it anyways because it's my story. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to be doing scales to protect their skin from the wind when they're flying. The scales are super small and transparent. Now, they shed pretty easily like hair, So they can pretty much be removed and then get the tattoo done underneath. And because the scales are transparent, when they grow back, you can still see the tattoo underneath. I don't know if there's much else I can say about this because I'm not great at this right now. I need a lot of practice when it comes to creating fantasy creatures and races. And so I'm using this, the werewolf story, to help me figure that out. And then I'll shift when I eventually do the witch story. I will have better practice at that because the witch one is not just all witches. It is like a full fantasy paranormal mixture. So there will be a lot of races in that I have to figure out. Anyways, we'll move on to the characters. First is Alina. She is a Kwai and a freshman in college. She is 19. She is studying to become one half of a human conscience. More on that later. She loves baking. She has overbearing parents that she's dealing with while she's in college. Now, because of her overbearing parents, when she gets to college, she kind of experiences life in some freedom. This is a struggle for her. She kind of has to be convinced to expand on her life and what she does by her friend Zara. But that is the reason why she is willing to have a conversation with and potentially future meet Darren, who is of the opposite race, the Hootar. Now we'll jump into him. He is 25. He is also in school. He is probably more of a junior age range. He did go to school a little bit later. While Alina is an only child, he has 5 siblings, I think. I think I wrote down 5. I'm not sure. I can't quite remember at this current point. I'm kind of tired. He loves drawing, especially tattoos, realistic drawings. He has a snake tattoo on his forearm where the head is probably around here and the tongue comes up to about the midpoint between the thumb and pointer finger. He loves spicy food and he gives everybody nicknames. Everybody gets them, including Alina. It's like an instant reaction for him. And there's a whole conversation with that in the book because why not? Antagonists. I'm not going to get into this very much because it is basically a complete spoiler. So I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just going to move on to Zara because I don't want to have any problems. So Zara is Jazara. She is Alina's best friend. She is also 19 and also a freshman in college. She is very, very smart. She is both book and street smart. This is a fantasy world that lives separate from the human world while also still very much connected. Alina is very much book smart. So she did not really watch, read, or consume anything that was related to humans themselves and more so becoming a human conscience. So there are gaps in her knowledge. And Zara is very much trying to help her figure out those gaps. One thing is colors. Alina really only knows a specific color, burgundy, and everything else is base colors. She cannot describe them, cannot explain them. She doesn't understand it. She knows they're different, but doesn't know how to describe those colors. Zara is a master at colors and styling. She is very good at figuring out what fits best for which type of person and which their skin tones and such. Because they are human, sort of, they do have human adjacent skin tones, but not completely. It's a whole thing. Sorry, I'm distracted with family stuff. Zara is studying to become a human conscience because 1, she is really good at it, and 2, it's a very important job that gets you a lot of money. But she's good at it. Literally nobody and nothing is letting me continue this video. So Zara loves being a human conscious. It is second nature to her. She is very good at studying it. She's very good at learning it. She is doing it because she is so good at it. I'm going to move this over here so I can access it better. It is just second nature to her. She also has a tattoo. This one is, why is it so bright? Ugh. Now, Zara has a massive waist tattoo from like the side of her boob down to like her hip bone. It's huge. And it's got butterflies and flowers. That's what it is. Next is their friend group. There are 4 of them. Serafina, Raymond, Hanita, and Tenchi. Yes, their names are all human culture based, and there is a reason for that. I'll get into that later. But I'm not going to dive into those characters because this video is going to be extremely long already. If you want me to do a second video on the background characters in the friend group, please let me know. I can, but for right now, I'm just going to move on to the next section, which is story. So the idea of the world. They live in a world called Thera. There are the 2 races, the Kwai and the Hootar, and they act as human consciousness, working together, one from each race, to to guide humans through their most moldable years. The idea is the developmental ages when humans start to build their own conscience. I chose age 8 just to make it a solid number for my series Bible, and they will continue to guide them into their late 20s, so 28. It's about a 20-year period where they are just helping humans create a consciousness. They are not forcing them to do anything, they are guiding them. They cannot force humans. There's a whole reason in the book that explains it, but they are guiding them. Now, this is really only mentioned. The story more so follows Alina as she starts school, meets Darren, builds a friendship, deals with the antagonist, and then shit happens. It does not revolve around that job. I don't know if I'm going to do another book where it is revolved around the job or if I'm just going to leave it as reader interpretation. I don't know. Honestly, this all proves that I prefer writing romances, but I love fantasy worlds. Honestly, if the fantasy aspect was taken out of all of my novels, I think they could all just be changed into contemporary romances. Most of them. Next, we will move on to the setting. The world itself is like a parallel world, almost. Not parallel, a different dimension. That's what I meant. They live in their own world. It is a series of floating islands in like air. There's a limited number of islands. They don't really develop new ones. They have their set islands. The islands never break apart, go away. They just stay in their own gravitational field. But they are floating islands. They are divided into the 2 countries. Each country, for the 2 different races, have their own infrastructure. They have more jobs other than just human consciousness. They have doctors and schools and clothing stores and farmland and government things. It's a whole infrastructure. Now, there are islands where both races live on, but they live on opposite ends. It's the same thing with like the school that Alina goes to. Both her and Darren's school are on the same island, but they cannot physically interact. And 99% of the story will take place on the island that has the school, so we learn a little bit more about that, but that's the whole thing. More specifically for locations, there is the schools, classrooms and dorms, a secret garden, a park, an infirmary. Is there anything else? Revealing anything else will be spoiling. We'll move on to organizations, culture, and government. The organizations and government don't really play a huge part in this, but the country itself, the 2 countries are basically run by a group of people that are voted into those seats. There is a separate person, sort of like an organization, that has a lot of power, and that is the headmaster of the school that is teaching new people to become human consciousness. Their voices hold a lot of power, which is why some issues that Alina and Darren go through don't end up having super big consequences because of how much power these headmasters have. Now, culture. They don't really have their own, and there's a reason for it. Like an actual reason. There was a huge war hundreds of years prior. Now, this war had such massive devastation not only to them, but to their world, to the realization of how important their job is. There is some consequences within the human world, and there is a lot going on. Now, because of this, their culture ended up getting lost after the war. So because they didn't have any culture, they ended up having to they ended up adopting the cultures of the human world. But they don't live within those cultures. They don't have any serious connection to those cultures. So everything they use, the architecture, the clothing, the food, all of that is surface level. Next is magic and technology. God, I have to use the bathroom, but I really want to get through this video. There is a part for dialect and language later, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit now, or a lot of it now. The language is an ancient language. It is from their culture before the war that they have still held on to because it is like an activator for their magic. They have elemental magic that basically they say if they cast like water jet or whatever, they will say water jet in that language with an activating word before it as like a command for the spell. The second magic is a combination of magic and technology, and it is naturally forming stones that absorb magic from the air and create it. These stones, when they produce magic, it is then put back out into the world that is then reused to form new stones. These power kitchen appliances, watches that are kind of like smartwatches with like an actual screen that pops up, not just the tiny one on the wrist, teleportation pods that they have. It is all using these stones that is activated using commands from the ancient language. So the third magic is kind of going to be vague because it's kind of a spoiler. Maybe. I'm not sure. But there is ancient forms of magic, and they don't need the ancient language to activate them. But they are blocked. There is something that happened in the past that caused these forms of magic to get blocked and to be sealed away, which I'm not going to tell you about. I will say that the initial thing that they did was done on purpose, and the blocking of magic was a side effect from the first thing that was done. They did not know that the side effects would happen when they caused this thing, but it was an intentional thing. It was done on purpose. And this is pretty heavily present in the novel. It's pretty much all I'm going to say. Next section is objects of significance. These are things that include important physical objects to either the plot or the characters. In Alina, most of the objects of significance are character related and not so plot related. The first one is Alina's half butterfly necklace that was originally a part of a brooch. This brooch was owned by Zara's grandmother, and Zara's mom split the brooch in half and gave half of it to Alina and half of it to Zara. So they have matching necklaces. The second thing is a journal that Alina has. This is a journal where she keeps all of her recipes in. When she's done with the recipe, she writes down the reactions to it, the testing of it, the whole thing. The third thing is Darren's sketchbook, which he keeps very close to his person. The sketchbook isn't as important because the story is told from Alina's perspective, but that is something that he does keep around him all the time because it's very important to him. Next is the language. Again, I already touched on this in the magic section, so I am going to go through this as quickly as I can and not stay on it for too long. As of the story taking place, the language is only used for magic, not communication. The two races share a language, but the difference is in the naming of things. They do still have names of things in that language, and they change based off of the two sides. But there is a commonality in the language, so if the word water is the same for both Water jet is the same for both on, off. When they're turning devices on and off, it's the same. It's just the naming of things that are different. Now, the activator for the spells, for the Kwai, it's a Kau, and for the Hootar, it's Hooth. These words do not repeat anywhere else in their language. It is an activator for magic. These letters do not come together in this way in any other words, formatting, nothing. It is completely unique to the activation spells. As for the regular spoken language in the world, it's never really justified. There is no really connection in that sense to what language they are speaking. I speak and write in English, so that is what my novel is written in. But there's no, technically these characters could be speaking any language, pretty much. I don't really specify countries or dialogue really for the characters, except for their names. The names are referencing countries, human countries, but again, that's a whole thing. Timeline. I don't really have a clear timeline right now. I'm still in the process of reworking the story, so I don't know if the timeline is going to change. My general prediction is that the entire story will take place within a 6-month time period. But as for how many months will pass, I'm not sure. Style. This is basically tracking the formatting for your book. This is text specific. So the main text of the novel will be one. If you have text messages, which I do, I have another text form for that. And then italics I am using for internal thoughts for Alina. And that's my debut novel. That is Alina. This is my series Bible for Alina. I've told as much as I possibly can. Whew, I have no idea how long this video will be, but I really enjoyed doing this. Take a look at this video next if you would like to see my writing process and more about me as an author, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.